The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Detroit, we got tanks up there. Let's follow a range on Detroit. I do have that on the target right now. I've got a submarine right in front of me. I'm going after it. Right, I got him.
Welcome back to the Lead Pursuit podcast. Tonight, we will be delving deeper into the tournament scene and the results from Adepticon. So fortunately, we have most of the team with us tonight. We've got Brett, the man who puts the F in Blue Falcon. Brett, how you doing tonight?
It's only half a word, right?
Exactly. Buddy's just half the word for you, buddy. But, not to be outdone, the man behind Blue Falcon Hobbies, Steve, a man who's destroyed more virtual MiG-21s than the entire Israeli Air Force. Welcome tonight, Steve. Good to have you on.
Yeah, when it's a virtual life, there's no reason to eject. I've learned that.
I noticed that. I watched your stream and you ejected faithfully the first time, and the second time you just wrote it in, bitching all the weapons.
Ride it in.
Yeah. I was laughing. Well, Casey isn't with us tonight, but that's all right. We're going to press on without him. We're going to talk about some of the things we've seen, some of the stuff that's going on, and then we'll delve right into the tournament bullshit because I don't care about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because we got thousands of followers that are hanging on our every word to find out what the skinny on the tournament is. But first, let's talk about our upcoming events. So, taking a bit of a break. Well, really, work's kicking my ass for the next couple months. But Twisted Lords, Steve, I think you're planning to try to make it there July 14th, 16th. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. I'm locked in, man. I can't wait.
Hell yeah. I haven't bought my ticket. I guess I better get around to that. I've been such a slacker here lately. But yeah, we'll be out there in Oklahoma City, Twisted Lords, John Russell's personal wargaming party out there. And we're going to hang out, do some Blood Red Skies, probably do some Aeronautica, do some streaming. We'll figure it all out. Drink a lot of beer. It should be fun. Then I will roll to NashCon. I guess everyone else is deserting me. That's all right. I get it. You have much more important things to do. August 18th to 20th, I will do NashCon again, which is always a good time. And they always roll out the red carpet for us. So that will be another chance to do some Blood Red Skies, hopefully some more Aeronautica, and have a good time, at least close to home for me. So I won't have to travel that far. Last event on the schedule, you notice I don't have Crucible on the schedule. I haven't decided to tempt fate again and try to fly in hurricane season. But Siege of Vicksburg, October 20th, 21st. There is still tentatively the Steve Toth Memorial Blood Red Skies tournament. So, Steve, the rumors of your death are greatly exaggerated.
If we don't do Crucible, I think I might be reincarnated for the Siege of Vicksburg.
You'll put in an appearance there. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be a little bit weird to have you at your own memorial, tournament there. But that will not be in Vicksburg. It'll be adjacent to Vicksburg. It'll be just north or just outside of Jackson. Nice little place they've got there. So go take a look at the website, register. They got a couple different tournaments going. Let me think here. Age of Sigmar tournaments, a bunch of other stuff. So it should be a good time. All right. Any other events that people think they're going to? I know we're skipping out on Historicon. I already got counseled severely this weekend about that, but we're going to do Twisted Lords instead. All right. Let's talk about what we've seen. So there's a 700-pound gorilla in the room, the Wing Commander book. I'm going to jump ahead of myself. We're going to talk about that just for a second. Lots of stuff from the community in there. I think most everybody who's been in the Blood Red Skies Ready Room Facebook group has seen a lot of this stuff before, at least, but it's obviously cleaned up and put together and pretty fancy. So you two assholes, you're going to get your chance. You get to go to the big dance here, and be published. So the Blood Red Skies campaign system is there, along with a bunch of tactic stuff and a bunch of other scenarios. So you guys excited about that? I hope.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I haven't gotten any kind of preview copy or anything like that, so I'm just like everybody else. I don't have any early release, so I'd like to see. Can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, everyone keeps asking me for that, and I keep laughing, going, "Yeah, I've got as much as everybody else, a whole lot of nothing." Steve, you're gonna be happy to see your name in print.
Yeah, I don't know. Is my name gonna be in print?
I don't
That's a
know. It
lot.
might be Steve Tooth. So
That's a lot of accountability if it's in
Yeah,
print. And if
I
people
know.
don't like it, they know who to yell at. I don't know.
I laughed. The first image was one of the facing pages from. It was something I'd put in there. Oh, it was the AI system, the how to play solo against an AI, and yeah, I laughed. I'm like, well, crap, my name's now on that. So there's no blaming anyone for that one except me. That's okay. I'll take the blame.
I fully
All right,
expect
well,
that plenty of it's changed, or altered in some way just to make
yeah.
it, fit better or, whatever, which is fine because kind of our mantra has always been, I got my copy.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so, it'd just be fun to see, kind of what contribution we were able to make. That's cool.
I have my limited edition illegally published by Mariner Games under a unauthorized license copy with cover art that was actually licensed. So I'm still a little bitter about that. We got to use that cover art somewhere else. I have to contact Paul and say, hey man, I got another good deal for you. All right, so let's go to the miniatures we've seen. Twin engines first. Bombers, the HE-111 is out there, is coming out, and so is the B-26B. They should both be out next month, I believe. I think they're both May releases. And a B-26 Ace for the B-26 flak bait, which will be pretty cool to have another bomber ace out there with some more traits and things. I know 3D printed HE-111s have been pretty popular already, but the nice thing is at least you're going to get cards, you're going to get stands, and it will be good to see the Warlord models. Because I've seen the photos of the ones that display cat, but they look pretty good. So hopefully with the new Warlord resin, everything holds up and those print pretty well. And I am excited for the B-26Bs. Those will be good. All right. The ones that I'm more excited about than anything else are the F-86 and MiG-15s getting resculpted in the new, recently released Warlord resin. So those will be good to come back. They've got a couple aces as well. You've got Jabara and you've got Bolt. So yes, we have a U.S. Marine flying an F-86. I feel a small moment of happiness there. John Russell probably died a little bit inside when he saw that. But we've also got MiG-15 aces from the North Koreans and from the Chinese. So those will be good. We'll take a look at their traits and talk about those in a different episode. We just want to really kind of concentrate on tonight's big topic, which is tournaments. And the last note, kind of administrative note, yes, we finally got our restock at Lead Pursuit. So if you're looking for some Warlord gear, some specific boxes, and they're all out of stock, that is by design. We have moved a lot of that stuff at Adepticon and sold a lot off. So we just got a restock. That stuff should be up on their website by the time this episode drops. So you shouldn't see a bunch of stuff out of stock, except for Blue Falcon Hobbies. So subtle promo there for Steve. Give me some acrylic. Give me some neoprene clouds one of these days.
It's acrylic measuring sticks.
Yeah, they're all coming.
Hey, it's selling out so quick. What can you do?
I know it sold out almost every last little bit of it at Adepticon. I think we have like 2 bags of tokens left, which is good. So that means people are picking stuff up. People are playing the game. So it's definitely a good thing to hear. And if you did not catch it in either our Facebook post or in any of the Warlord Facebook posts, John Russell and his merry band were on the Angry Joe Twitch stream. So they were over there playing Blood Red Skies. I think they played some multi-engine against some fighters and a couple different things. So go take a look at that. And then we can all debrief John on whether he got the rules right or not. I'm willing to bet he made at least one mistake that he'll owe us beer for. So we'll work through it. All right. Let's talk about tournaments. Whew. Okay. Get my happy place. Try to remember that I don't hate everyone in a tournament, even though I hate everyone in a tournament. Do you guys enjoy tournaments? Brett, did you like the tournament?
Well, of course I wasn't playing in it, but I was in heads down display mode the whole time. So I did not get to see a whole lot of the table action, but I like tournaments. I know you always talk crap about it as a TO that you don't enjoy all that process, but yeah, I thought it was a good time.
Here I am. Steve, did you enjoy the tournament? I know you were glued to the stream deck, so you were busting your ass while the rest of us were making fun of everything going on.
I did like it. I enjoyed the parts of it that I kind of got to watch from, right basically next to the action there at the table. But it is funny how I was so close, but I still felt like I was very much just out of the loop what was going on. But yeah, I thought it was a good time.
So you're kind of like a porn cameraman, you're within inches of the action, but you're really not a part of any of it. So yeah. There's my analogy for the night. Congratulations. We're an E-rated podcast. Don't let your kids listen to this. All right. Let's talk about the format changes, because that was one of the biggest shifts. There were a couple there, but that was a big one. We went away from scenario 1 dogfight to scenario 2. That way we could have high cover. That way the system for determining advantage was a little bit different. I don't think it caused any problems. Did anyone kind of catch any difficulty with people flying scenario 2 instead of scenario 1? I'll take that as a no. That's a good thing.
I think scenario 2 is a definite win.
Yeah.
So I just, from the deployment standpoint, watching people kind of do, different strategies during deployment. I think scenario 2 is definitely winning it. Actually, the first couple of times it happened, I was like, is somebody playing like a doctrine card or I think there's a doctrine card that gives you the high cover if you want to use it.
And that's one of the reasons we shifted, was so people could use that doctrine card and it not create a rules quandary, So
it's kind of, I don't know. I thought it was just kind of cool that it adds another dynamic to deployment. And it definitely did sneak up on some people who weren't familiar really with the way high cover works at the end of the turn there. So I think it just keeps everybody on their toes. It's a good switch.
Yeah. It seemed to be pretty good that people used it to tactical advantage. It did seem to surprise a few people how high cover works and how quick people can get out of high cover and into the middle of the fight. But those are the rules, and that's the good thing about using scenario 2. I think it really gives us an opportunity to use the full gamut of the Blood Red Skies rules and the traits. So, Brett, did you see anything different with it being scenario 2 versus scenario 1?
No, just that high cover thing. I saw at least one game where it seemed decisive, right? I think what you suggested, maybe somebody was napping and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they've got, a whole element of bad guys in their shorts. It looked like it might have been a surprise.
Well, especially if you are, disadvantaged because you've been outmaneuvered or whatever, and you think the high cover coming in a long way away isn't a factor, and then those guys dive, so they automatically show up on the board advantaged, then they dive to be neutral, and they can still shoot at you when they get across the board, or get halfway through the board. So it's pretty powerful, especially as we saw with a lot of the faster fighters. So if you're already playing a speed 8 fighter and now you're diving another 2 inches, so you're getting 14 inches, you literally are almost halfway across the board. You are shooting halfway across the board. So you're right there at effectively 20 inches out of 24. So you're able to range most everything in the middle. It's pretty strategic if you haven't taken it into account. But it's like everything else. Scenarios will change. People have asked for us to roll in attack scenarios, bomb scenarios. It gets a little tough. We'll have to look at it after this year and see if there's a way to do that, because it's always good to have a better variety of scenarios.
Did you get any feedback from players before or after the tournament about the change?
Everybody seemed to be fine with it, or I should say the majority of everybody. There are always one or two people that are like, hey, I think scenario 1 is more of a pure kind of tournament scenario, and I get that it has the most constraints on it, but I wanted to be able to use the most doctrine and theater and all the other cards and kind of open up your ability to use the whole board. So I do not think scenario 2 is unbalanced. It's not like playing scenario 3 where one bad die roll and the scenario is over in a turn. But I think it's challenging enough that it forces people to do things a little bit differently. All right, well, let's talk about the big ugliness that we'll hit a couple times here. We changed the heavy fighter point discount, as I'll call it, to 15 points. Part of that was we'd only seen the heavy fighter rule used a couple times. So, in some discussions, people with their quote unquote empirical math that they were giving us, were telling us that 15 points was too much of a discount, and that that it was totally going to break everything. And there's no way you can use 15 points. You have to use 12.5 or something. It's not 10, but it's not 15. So maybe it's like Warlord's miniature size is 13.72618 for millimeters. I don't know, but people gave us a lot of grief about 15 points, but we went with it. In this listing, we'll have 2 multi-engine aircraft that could be flying as heavy fighters. We'll talk about a little bit some weirdness that went on there, but the 15-point discount I think is worth keeping for this whole year, because the heavy fighters with a 15-point discount did not dominate the tournament. So I don't think that 5-point difference, caused anyone to clean house. So we're going to keep that in there. We're going to run it for the rest of the year and see how it goes. If everybody suddenly starts rolling people up with bow fighters, then we'll realize we made some mistakes and we'll fix that. Any thoughts on the 15-point discount?
I'm sure I've been told this before, and I think it might even be on the document in Ready Room, that master list where it has the points methodology.
Yes.
Is there an arbitrary points addition, on top of the stats for just being a multi-engine aircraft?
20. Agile multi-engines are 20.
Okay.
So that's why I think 15 isn't too much. You're still giving them a little bit of a bonus for that extra boom chit. But yeah, it's not it's not the same as single engine, but it's not totally out to lunch, kind of like I think the 10-point difference was. Yeah,
it seems like, on the surface, it would seem like having that extra endurance, if you will, would give you an advantage in a 1-hour game. When you're playing in a tournament and there's a strict time limit,
right?
But it certainly was not on display at the tournament. Didn't see anybody really outlasting in a significant way to win the game with multi-engine.
Well, the thing that is kind of interesting to me is, even though you have theoretically less aircraft, you end up with about the same boom chits till you get boomed out. It's not like, even with a 10-point discount that I think is too less, it's not like you're dramatically different number of boom chits. It's not like you're getting, 5 multi-engine aircraft out there. You're still only getting 4 of them, maybe 5 if you have really unskilled pilots. But it's not like there's a significant advantage there. So as soon as the boom chits start happening, and especially if you keep dropping advantage and gaining back advantage, and you're being boom chit farmed as a multi-engine aircraft, then you're still going to end the game pretty quickly. So I think there's some more analysis to be done. I don't think we've seen the last of it, and I think we'll just have to try it.
Do you think you're more vulnerable to getting boom farmed if you're multi-engine?
I think you can be. So, and I'm going to say this piece of it because everyone will immediately say, no, you're not. As long as you don't take damage when you're disadvantaged, get theoretically shot down for the first engine, you're just as boom farmable as any other single engine aircraft. And then because you get that other second boom chit to get shot down, or second engine hit to get shot down, plus your shoot down boom chit, you theoretically give one more boom chit. So I'm not sure that it balances out. I know Steve probably has some thoughts on this. You've been pretty vocal at times about how it's not helpful. It's actually counterproductive.
Yeah, I think like you just said, then when you get the extra boom chip for the engine, but if you don't get shot down like in consecutive turns, you're actually giving up boom chits, like you said, because you lost the boom chit, you didn't get shot down. But then when you get boomed out, you're like have all of a sudden like all the boom chits, or you know. So I think I don't know. I'm against the twin engine rules are like the one part of this game that I just cannot come to grips with it.
Yeah, I find I have a hard time getting it right. And especially if we see more multi-engines in tournaments, I think it may be interesting. We may have to watch the tables closer and see how people are playing them, just because they are confusing rules. And Andy even admits that. He goes, hey, they didn't turn out the way we wanted. We thought we had something with Agile. But realistically, it didn't make everything as straightforward.
So I guess my question with the multi-engine rules, and this isn't like a tournament thing, so it's probably kind of like could wait for another episode, I guess. But like, why not just make some type of card mechanic that takes into account, having two engines, like super deep pockets or extra deep, like rather than have this whole separate offshoot of rules that nobody really understands how it works. I feel like there's other mechanics there that would essentially do the same thing, and then would just kind of simplify tournaments.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head. That part of the problem is when we talk about some of these aircraft going to single engine and they suddenly get deep pockets. Well, but deep pockets is a one time and usually half as many aircraft as you have. And so it gets some weirdness in there. There certainly would be a capability to have some other trait that does something with discarding boom chits, because you get this weird boom chit balance is kind of the best way I can say it. How many can you discard versus how many do you absorb without being shot down? So
yeah, or maybe it's a trait that doesn't even have to do with boom chits. Maybe it's a trait that like your first disadvantage shoot down is like a mulligan kind of, oh, you don't get an extra boom chit, but you just don't go in the drink on that one. I don't know. It's just the multi-engine rules are very, very confusing to me.
I was going to ask you, could you just point them with the traits and the firepower and stuff that they have, take the 20 points off, run them as single engine? Would that cause real problems in a tournament setting? Just playing them just like every other plane.
I don't think it would. I mean, I think where you might find a little bit of weirdness, and we have to look at the point values, is for multi-engine agile fighters with turrets. So you got the 110 with a gun in the back. Does that create any? And normally the firepower is so low that the odds are so low they're going to hit because they're shooting without pilot skill added to it. They're just shooting pure firepower dice. So I don't think it's a dramatic shift.
Is that not accounted for in the points methodology, that turret?
I am not clear how it is because, once again, the odds are going to be totally different than the odds of regular firepower. So I'd have to go look at, and I should say, as I have the master list open right now.
I think a 110 normally is 48 points, which is quite a bit higher, I think, than even the P-38, right?
And then if you dropped it to 28, I'll have to put on my reading glasses to read this. Turret, basically, you just add the firepower in that facing. So that would only add really for the 110. I'm pretty sure it's a firepower 1 in the rear. Yeah, rear turret firepower 1. So that only bumps it up by a point. So I don't think that's a dramatic difference for that capability. So under the single engine fighter rules, it might work perfectly fine. All right. Well, we've kind of beat the heavy fighter piece to death, and we'll beat it again here in a little bit. Let's talk about the tournament itself. Okay, we had 9 players plus a late show. We could have had an even 10, but what happened was, so we asked one guy to kind of wait on the other player. They played a late game. They probably could have pitched into the tournament, but it got too difficult at one point and syncing everyone up. So apologies to our late show guys, but be on time. And I know there's a lot of constraints. A lot of things going on at Adepticon. It's tough to get to your events. I do want to say, though, Mike Lewis is once again our hero. I just spent the last weekend gaming with him here in Huntsville. He was down for a Blood Bowl tournament. We were playing a lot of different stuff and drinking beer, hanging out, watching the craziness go on at the comic book and pop culture convention. But it was good to catch up with him. He took a lot of help. He was a lot of help for us in all of our events, but especially in the tournament. He took the late show player, played with them, and kind of let them get some games in, even though they'd missed the start of the tournament. So, Mike, once again, I owe you beer. You're my hero. All right, so let's talk about the results. First place, John Dudkowitz with his LA5 FNs. So those are Speed 8, 403 miles an hour, agility 2, firepower 2, rapid roll, poor quality 31 points. And I don't have his list sitting here in front of me. I wish I did, because I would then tell you what his traits were, because I think he had an ace in there. So that aircraft, on on face value is kind of right in the sweet spot for points to spend in a tournament without running a swarm or a heavy list. 31, 32, that all the way up to about 35 is kind of about the maximum I really think you want to run. But the nice thing is with Rapid Roll and Firepower 2, you're kind of putting the hurt on people almost like a cheater, Spitfire, which we'll see here in a second. But what are y'all's thoughts on the LA5 FN?
It looks like a value to me. I mean, I'm comparing that to like a 109E with that Firepower 2 and Speed 8. I mean, already you're, I think, a lot better in a 1 hour game. And yeah, I like Rapid Roll.
I like Rapid Roll because it really gives you that max turn. It doesn't allow you to make a face in the middle of your move like Tight Turn does. But realistically, when you want to either get someone off your tail or move into an immediately attacking position, that Rapid Roll helps. It doesn't help you make that last minute turn to face the aircraft to tail, but it at least allows you to kind of get inside their turn circle and threaten them. What are your thoughts on it, Steve?
I'd say once again, poor quality turns out to be like absolutely meaningless, right? Like nobody cares if you have poor quality. And
John learned from last year with poor quality. You just start in the clouds. You know, he saw it firsthand last year.
Observing his game, he actually started in high cover with an element of those guys. So it's like, man, you start in high cover with those. Poor quality is like totally out the window.
And that's the funny thing because it's only a -1. So if you roll a 5 or a 6, you're in high cover. And so he rolled a 6. And so he's got a 5. So he's still in high cover. So yeah, poor quality reduces the odds he's in high cover. But you know what? The fact is when you start in high cover, then it's not a problem at all. So it's not a significant drop in your advantage, and especially the way that advantage is done in scenario 2. It's a good compromise, I think. So poor quality, not a big deal. Not worried about it. I didn't get a chance to really watch his games in detail to be able to kind of debrief his aircraft placement and how he did all those things. But it looked like he definitely had learned from last year because last year he was flying IAR 80s. We thought IAR 80s were going to break the tournament. They didn't. Sorry, John. But he definitely learned from last year and I think did a really good job rolling in there with the LA5 FNs and using them to their strengths and obviously getting first place. All right, second place, also a cheater aircraft, the Spitfire 5B non-tropical. Dante Adrosky flying that one. So it's a speed 7, agility 2, firepower 2, tight turn for 32 points, obviously because of the value of tight turn. So any surprise we saw Spit 5Bs out there?
That's my plane. That I maintain that is the best aircraft to use for a tournament. I really, truly believe that. I think that tight turn, at that point value, it's an easy plane to play, right? So if you're a new player, I feel like the Spitfire is super easy plane to play. I think that is the go-to plane for tournaments.
Yeah, I think it is a sweet spot. Brett, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I always like Firepower too. I think single trait with tight turn, in a tournament setting, you just got cards to burn. When I'm playing against that with my denial list, it's tough because, I'll try to do, I know your type and deny those tight turns, but when it's single trait, you got 6 planes maybe on the table. The odds are you're going to lose. I know your type in that, in that reroll, because I believe it's a pilot skill check, right? To get it back as your ace. And so you've got to be within, I keep forgetting. I know your type has a range to it. I should probably remember that. But the odds of you using it multiple times versus them still exploiting their tight turn is not good. So the fact of the matter is single cheater traits, as I call them, those kind of aircraft, I think they're still the sweet spot because they allow you to modify your turn circle. They allow you to maneuver differently than you would normally. So you're going to, I shouldn't say outmaneuver, you're going to fly better than your opponent. But that's the key to having a denial list or something that's then going to keep them from regaining advantage. So you won't be able to counter necessarily their tight turn or their rapid roll, but or no stalling, I should say. I shouldn't leave no stalling out of that one. You'll have to counter those. Yeah, I was doing
as best you can. But
I was doing a little list hammer before the tournament, and Zeros kind of floated to kind of the top for the same reasons.
I really like no stalling. Maybe it's just me because it's the super tight turn. But I think no stalling is pretty powerful. And I was surprised that the midway set's been out as long as it has been, and no one is flying zeros in a tournament. I think vulnerable just because other people are flying such heavy firepower aircraft that by the time you get to the odds that they're flying, let's say a pot skill 3, firepower 2, the shift from 5 to 6 dice is still a significant step up. And then if they're flying a swarm list, then the step from 2 dice and firepower 1 in a yak or whatever, that step up from 3 to 4 is still a significant step up. So I think if your opponent was like Rhonda flying Corsairs with rockets, then that extra die is not that much of an odd shift at that point. But for almost all the other aircraft, the die for vulnerable is a significant odd shift.
I think with the LA5s, you can, in the Spits too, you can be pretty aggressive. I think if I was playing those traits on the Zero, I'd probably play defensive. I think all my ace traits and defensive tactics, all that combined with this no stalling is probably the way I would go.
Yeah, I think with a Zero, knowing that I have vulnerable, I would spend a lot of time outmaneuvering and using no stalling to get somebody into a low probability of shoot down deflection shot, but still be able to take a deflection shot on them. And then hopefully next turn play no stalling again and maybe even get in behind them. So we'll see. Hopefully people will start playing zeros in some of the tournaments, and we'll see how they roll. Maybe I'll have to step into the tournament myself in Twisted Lords and fly zeros. Okay, third place, Matt Doyle. Yeah, the infamous Pat Doyle's son, Matt. He took third place out there. F6F Hellcats, flying those at speed 8, agility 2, firepower 2, rapid roll, robust, and 39 points. Yeah, we normally think of that as kind of the top end of the single engine fighter. It's a lot of points at 39. But Matt did really well with those. What'd you guys see out there?
The one thing, that's interesting when you look at that, when you compare that to the LA5N, right? And I'm just trying to do the math on an actual calculator, not in my head, before I make myself look like an idiot.
700
again,
points. We're good.
Right? No, but so it's an 822 aircraft, but it is 39 points instead of 31, right? So is the robust essentially worth one less plane, right? Because at 38, 39, you figure 6 planes, you can add an extra plane in there. Is having that robust card worth sacrificing a plane for? And I don't think it is.
Yeah, I start to sweat at 36 points. That's where I start to
I don't know, because looking at the Hellcat with rapid roll and robust, I'm so used to playing robust. And I guess if I'm thinking about most of my other opponents being firepower 2, pot skill 3, that one die shift is still in a strategic area. They're not, if it was an ace with firepower 2 and you're shooting 7 dice, okay, the difference from 7 to 2, not that dramatic, but most of the lists were not ace heavy. So I think robust can still have a pretty big impact. You only have half as many of them as aircraft, obviously, because you've only got, you got 2 traits out there, but it's not as dramatic in the Wildcat versus Zero pairing. So like when we would always play the Midway starter set or play the Blood Red Skies digital, those robust cards, because you had one of them for every Wildcat, would just screw up the zeros, and the zeros were already firepower 1. So it wasn't like they had a lot of firepower there to do some damage. So I think if you were fighting a swarm or someone with low firepower, that probably would be a key card. I think though, as you get to the higher firepowers, it doesn't do as much for you. Any other thoughts on the top 3 before we move on? All right, we're going to kind of gloss over the others. We're not going to talk about them in detail. We saw KI-43 2 Bravos again, Oscars out there. The Oscars came in 4th place. They were, obviously they're a good aircraft. They obviously have no stalling. That helps. But there were some tough fights out there, so they didn't make it into the top 3. Mosquitoes were out there again. I was happy to see that. They did decently, but they didn't really sweep the field. So the jury is still out. They were not using rockets, as I recall, unlike what we saw in Gathering of Eagles. But obviously that points discount did help them. I got to look here something. I'm going to go dig back up the listings, and let's see here if I can find it. So when we stack them all out there and look at the final scores. All right, so the P38Js and the KI 50, the Oscars, KI 43 2 Bravos, were both solidly in that fourth space. Now, I think it's interesting. We'll talk about the P-38s here in a second. But looking at the Oscars and the P-38s, those two aircraft, I think rules-wise are totally different. Very different flying airplanes, yet they were both in the middle. And, of course, it was Dan Dione and Don Gilmore flying those two. So, obviously, skilled pilots working both of those. But then the rest of the aircraft kind of started to fall into a 30 points and below category. So what does that mean? That means one win, 2 losses, or 2 draws with a lot of boom chits out there. So the rest of the aircraft, for whatever reason, seems to underperform a little bit. But let's talk about what we had out there. So we had, as I bring up my show notes again, we talked about P-38Js. Dan Dione had those. Rhonda had her F-4Us out there. Yak 9Ds made an appearance out there.
That's one I was curious about. Yak 9s, I think.
Yeah.
Just doing a little list hammer, it looked good.
Yeah, Yak 9s did not do great. They weren't the lowest, but they were solidly in the bottom third out there. And then you had the F4F Wildcats. So amongst all the aircraft, the obviously the rapid roll, tight turn kind of aircraft were the high performers. The others without those traits were not. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about this whole single engine versus heavy fighter debacle. So, for everyone who watched the stream and was a little confused, we were confused as well. So when the P-38 player showed up, their points list, their traits, and everything was set as the P-38 single engine. Now, we can argue about it till the cows come home, but the tournament packet clearly stated heavy fighters. Nowhere in there did it say single engine P-38s or P-38s as a single engine fighter. So we're going to make people comply. We're going to make them fly with our rules. And we tried that, and things got messed up, and people got confused because the traits are different. Because when you look at the P-38 single engine fighter trait, it tries to compensate for that second engine. So it has deep pockets. So if you look in there and you look at the P-38J, and I'll scroll back up real quick. So the J as a single engine has deep pockets and great climb. Yet as a heavy fighter, it's the heavy fighter optional rule. It's heavy hitter and great dive. So it couldn't be two opposite sets of traits when it goes from single engine to multi-engine heavy fighter. That's really hard on TOs. And I think people will get confused. People will be used to playing it one way inside their club, and suddenly have played it maybe a different way at the tournament. So I think if any of the agile or heavy fighters or the P-38 with the single engine rules show up, you'll have to take a look at it. It was kind of a squirrely eyebrow. The reality is, we say fly it as a heavy fighter. If you want to fly it as the single engine in your tournaments or in your events, go ahead. Not a big deal. Don't care. You can do what you want. Just make sure you have people grab the right traits, because none of them are the correct traits on the card. And so the J model specifically needs to make sure that that we get that correct when we use the heavy fighter rule. Thoughts on the J itself, single versus heavy fighter?
I was looking at it, giving it a look for revamping the furball list because it's kind of in that at the discount. It's sort of in that range of points.
Right, but it's also a great climb aircraft.
Yeah, I know. Right, so I kind of put that off. But because I'm not real familiar with P-38, but I was looking again at the master list because of that other thing, and that's where I was saying it kind of got confusing for me. I didn't realize that the methodology to come up with like single engine stuff, they changed the traits and the points. It wasn't obvious to me that's what I should expect until I was looking at it harder in the list, on the master list. I think, sometimes kind of like I was saying before, like maybe keep the traits the same, but just reduce the points and make everything play like a single engine. But whatever, it's all good. It's nice to see people trying new things, and it's, it was cool to see mosquitoes and P-38s. And, as we do more of it, I guess people will pay attention to the packet and stuff.
I went and I looked at it again and I misspoke. Agile is +10, multi-engine was +5. So 15 totally discounts all the multi-engine. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But, kind of like you say, you got to realize what the traits are when you go to single engine and see how that works out. Maybe there's still a hole in the effectiveness of what each of these different aircraft traits is versus their point values. So we'll have to play through and see what we think.
Oh, I would say for me, not so much the J, but looking at the P-38L, the way those traits change and you get deep pockets and rapid roll, like that to me with that 15-point single engine version is pretty enticing when you're looking at the L version.
Right.
But for the J, I think there's just other planes that essentially do the same thing as that for a couple points less. So I'm not sure why you choose that.
Let's talk about the weirdness that is in the master list, because the prices in there are not reflective of core Blood Red Skies rules. So in the rules itself, it gives no discount for heavy fighter. It just says if you want to fly it as a heavy fighter and make it use single engine rules for most everything except the number of boom chits awarded, then go ahead and do that. We years ago said that was a 10-point discount. Ken took that and kind of formalized that in there. But I think what we're saying now is we're not sure 10 points is the right number. So it's kind of confusing to some players when they'll see a multi-engine Agile, then a number for multi-engine heavy fighters, and they don't know why it drops 10 points. Well, it drops 10 points because a bunch of us, to include Ken, all said years ago, hey, let's cut 10 points off. I don't know if that's the right answer or not. So that's why you'll see like the P-38J Lightning is a 60-point aircraft, 50 points listed as a heavy fighter. We would have charged you 45 at the tournament, and then 39 for it as the single engine alternative. So potato. But as you say, those trait changes are the big thing, because when you look at like the L, it's 59 as a Agile heavy, Agile multi-engine, 49 there. We would have charged 44 for the heavy fighter optional rule, and then 39 for the single engine alternative. And it's just interesting to me how the traits flip there, go from a great dive to a rapid roll. So a throwaway trait to a pretty good trait, and you get deep pockets, losing a heavy hitter, of course, but at least you gain deep pockets. So I think one of the biggest problems in this twin engine argument, I'm not going to say discussion because it's not, it's a full-on argument now, is that the compression of a lot of things into a single trait. So boom chits do a lot. Boom chits aren't just about getting shot. They're not just about getting damaged. They're not just about near-death experiences. They're about long range, bad weather, things where a multi-engine aircraft excels. So we have those aircraft as a single engine having deep pockets, so they can, play against that boom chit and not take that boom chit from a theater card or something else. But the reality is, if the opponent doesn't use that theater card, then you have that many more boom chits you can give up, or you can accept, I should say, and then use deep pockets to get rid of them. All right. Enough debacle on single versus multi versus heavy fighter. Let's talk about deep pockets. A situation came up where two deep pockets cards were played in the same attack. So there's kind of an FAQ question there. Can I take deep pockets when I get shot, play it then when I fail my dodge and I get shot down, can I play another deep pockets card to make that boom shit go away? I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on deep pockets in the same attack? Obviously a shoot down attack.
I've thought about this quite a bit. And in the moment, the thought was, no harm, no foul, right? You're still losing one boom chit. What's the difference?
Right.
However, as I've thought about it more, I'm saying absolutely not. You cannot do it, because it's almost like a double advantage on that one time, where if that person is not in a position to shoot again, you wouldn't even get to use that card during that turn. So it's almost like you're getting to use a card from another plane on that same plane. So that's really kind of changed my thoughts on it.
So you're basically taking a rules as written with the caveat that you're only supposed to play one card per aircraft activation, attack, whatever.
Correct.
Kind of.
And even more than that, when you're talking about a plane where the traits are split, right?
Right.
Those traits are one trait per plane. So
right.
when a plane gets shot down, you're removing a trait card, right? So that's almost, to me, getting to use that deep pockets twice is almost kind of in the same vein as if you have a multi-ace list and you're using any ace card on any plane and not locking the ace card to the plane.
Right.
I feel like it's kind of straddling that same line. So I would say absolutely not. You can only use one deep pocket card per plane per turn, like rules as written.
Okay. Brett?
Well, are there any instances where you use two tight turn cards on a single plane in an activation?
Nope.
Yeah, I feel I'm in the camp with Steve on this one. I think, kind of in the spirit of some of the rules that are written about one card per activation or whatever, it seems to be my expectation for this play as well.
I would agree with that, but I would also say that I don't think it changes the end state mechanic, because at the end of the day, you're still getting rid of two boom chits in a 4 aircraft squadron. But I do agree that you are violating the intent of only one trait card being played per evolution. Now, the question is, if an aircraft were, let's say, neutral, and they had someone shoot at them during the first fire phase, move like a half move, and then shoot them again in the pilot action phase, could they use two deep pockets cards there? Because it's two separate shooting actions. Are you still only allowed to play one aircraft per turn? Because then the same question comes up about robust. People have said, can I play two robust cards, play one in the first shoot and one in the second shoot? I'm in a sense taking more aircraft cards away, but I'm also burning them that much faster. Because that also creates a weirdness as we kind of move from deep pockets to robust. In a closed deck standard game kind of hand, doesn't really matter. You're just going to burn through the cards. But in a open deck, you're flipping them over until the next turn, so you're not going to see them, and it's not going to put cards back in the rotation. So there is some weirdness with both of these with open deck, specifically for robust. Deep pockets obviously goes away, but it's using card slots that may or may not be there. Because if you're playing closed deck, you may not have two deep pockets cards come up that fast between whatever ace cards you have, your trait cards, your theater cards. Yeah, you may not have two deep pockets available. So I think that's probably one of the reasons you haven't seen it that much.
Yeah, it was an interesting play too, the way it went down, right? Because, and this certainly wouldn't happen every time it played like that, but the way it went down in this game is it was actually a plane got shot down. Right. And the player still had no boom chits.
Well, and actually they had one boom chit because remember, they didn't play it on the first boom chit of the the game. So that was the
it was
ironic
very
thing. Yeah.
strange. It was just kind of like one of those things that you're like, what the hell just happened there?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and and I was with you at first, but I've since thinking about it, I'm thinking
You since told me that I'm
be a
full of
one-off.
crap and I don't know what I'm doing.
You're
Yeah,
just
no,
wrong.
I think it's interesting. I think it's something we have to tee up to Andy and to the community at large. I think most everyone I expect will probably side with the one card use per activation / attack / event, because that kind of seems to follow the intent, the how it is written and its intent both. That you don't play a card multiple times in one event. But I think I think the problem is it's poorly worded because it says per turn in the actual rules, and it doesn't say per aircraft activation, et cetera. Because you could be shot at by 3 different aircraft and play 3 robust cards in those 3 separate attacks, and no one would second guess that. But whatevs.
Yeah, hasn't something like that happened with oh gosh, I want to say it wasn't Great Climb. No, I want to see that there's something like that where I got attacked multiple times in one of our campaign games, and maybe I tried to use a card twice.
Yeah, I know people have asked how robust works. Does it stay on for your full turn, so you play it? If you get shot at in the first fire phase, you play a robust. Does that then allow you to still be robust when they shoot at you for a pilot action?
I bet it was something like a high altitude performance, and I got to keep it with the test, and then got shot at again. But yeah, it's almost like another activation, right? Because it's not my aircraft activation. I'm using it to defend myself against something that's happening to me that I don't know. It is a quandary, so I was trying to rack my brain and think, is there any time when I use a card a couple times like that, and maybe not on my own, like certainly not for like Great Dive but
right.
I don't know. Maybe it does happen.
Yeah. I don't think it happens that much. I think robust, deep pockets, and a couple of the interactions with doctrine cards could feel like they could be a multiple times per turn. So, and the same thing would happen for superior armament or any one of the theater cards that you used or kept or had a way to regain them. It would be a question of how do you do that in one activation. Okay, so we're going to talk about just a couple admin issues. We didn't really have a separate ref and judge. We had Casey helping out a little bit. We were obviously 3 of us running the streaming there, so we were not probably as engaged. People still had the ability to ask questions. They fielded some stuff through Casey. We answered a few questions as we were watching, but it certainly was not like other tournaments where there was a judge's table. But I'll be honest, when I was the judge for a lot of the other tournaments, very rarely did someone come to me with a dispute. What do you guys think with the impact of that with us having 3 people face down in the stream at that point?
I'm saying a ref is totally unnecessary. Okay, you need to know the rules when you show up. And even in Blood Red Skies, we have a lot of new players, but the rules are so easy that unless it's something crazy, you're going to know the rules. And I mean, I guess I just kind of look at the simplicity of the game, right? Where if somebody's really trying to like get one over on you with the rules, you're probably going to be like, wait a second, that doesn't seem kind of right, and probably just be able to work it out on your own, right? I really don't think an official ref is necessary.
Well, I think that's one of the good things about the Blood Red Skies communities. They do work it out on their own generally, and most everyone gives the benefit of the doubt to new players. We've had people actually DQ themselves because the new player didn't catch them using a card wrong, and they, said, "Hey, I feel like I cheated, even though the other player didn't call me on it." But this is one that I'm not sure about. Brett, what are your thoughts on having an official judge that is separate than the streaming personalities?
Yeah, I think if you're going to do it, it's got to be somebody separate and somebody who could roam around and service all the tables that are out there. If a question comes up, like, hey, what do we do again for I think it's going to be more that kind of thing, not just like rules clarification. I don't really see a dispute really going down. I just don't expect that, but could happen. But I think it's going to be more or less just maybe quick rules clarification kind of thing, and to help keep the thing moving along so it doesn't stall
Yeah.
at a certain table.
I think we get away with a lot because we have a good community where most everyone plays well together. And even when people get super competitive, I watch some of our super competitive players, not to name names, Dan Dion, but I watched them pull back a little playing against other opponents and realize that, okay, play to win, but I'm also going to be kind enough to, to help out the other player and to not just go in there and smash somebody because they're a less skilled or less experienced player. So I think we have a false sense of security about that. I think if we were playing something like X-Wing or playing something like 40K, we would have felt the lack of a ref a lot more. But that's probably a lot because of the community and that people aren't playing smash face lists and trying to just table the other poor BRS player. So let's keep it that way. Then I don't have to have another judge. But I will bring up the point that like X-Wing had a separate organization judging the X-Wing tournament. Gold Squadron was just doing the streaming, and they were just commenting on the streaming. It was totally different people actually running the world's tournament event. So different than the guys that were streaming. So
yeah, I feel like that would be the thing, right? Like when you're talking about just scope of what needs to be done, right? If we weren't running the tournament at all, right? If we were like, hey, we're going to show up, we're going to stream, there's a different tournament organizer. They're just sending guys to they're sending whatever 2 guys to the main table that they want to send. And we're just kind of commenting on it. That would be a total game changer.
Right.
And I think there is a real lack of understanding, even in a 10-player tournament, in a game that is as simple as Blood Red Skies, how much goes into running the tournament, right? Just collecting everybody's list, making sure you got your point values right, making sure you get your pairings right for the next game, then collecting the results, trying to do it in a 3-hour time slot. Like it's people who they don't understand everything that goes into that because it seems very simple, but there's a lot that goes into that.
There is, and I won't make excuses, but it is kind of funny because you use a lot of your brain power just running the tournament and making sure things are moving smoothly, and then trying to comment and do that on top of it makes it a little bit difficult. Well, and that kind of leads into the issue about the rules packet. So we kicked out a rules packet on 8 Jan. We referenced that rules packet inside the Adepticon event text, put a link to the GOE page, said go get the rules there. And I think everyone who's played our events knows that. If you're a new person and you didn't get the packet, I get that. If you've played at every GOE since the first one, I don't have much sympathy for you. You know where to get the tournament packets. But that is a consideration, is how do you put out the information? I know like for the Aeronautica, we put a lot of information out on the website. We put it out, or on the Adepticon website, we put it out through emails from the Adepticon staff. We, I think, kind of thought the Blood Red Skies players were going to know where to find everything since we told them, but apparently not. So there were questions about the tournament packet. We need to do more about that. We need to just make sure we blanket everybody with tournament packets so there's no excuses. So when you come to me and bitch and try to award me the Blue Falcon trophy for you having an illegal list, I will shove it up your ass sideways.
I think the other thing too that honestly we could do with the rules packet that would clarify is actually make it like a whole packet, right? So like, we know the master list is out there. We know the scenarios are out there. But if we just take the tournament packet and then we put our version of the master list in it, right? So it's like, okay, this is a 15 point instead of a 10 point. And just like, look, whatever's on the ready room, whatever's on the whatever you're getting your information, this rules packet has everything in it you need. So if you don't have a Facebook account, if you're on, whatever it is, Parlor, and that's where you get your Blood Red Skies information, you're going to get it. It's all in this packet.
January 6th, Blood Red Skies players. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Yeah. So I think that's a good idea, but like everything else, I'll say hours in the day. And that, as you and I have always talked about, there's a lot of cool things you could do with tournament packets. It comes down to hours in the day. shit, man, maybe I should find someone else to do the Aeronautica tournament or Aeronautica event, because that took a lot of my time writing custom scenarios and stuff and putting them in 6-point font just so I'd make Steve go blind. All right. Well, so I'm going to make a super negative statement here. I'm going to make Andy Chambers cry, but that's not my intent. The tournament scene, I believe, is literally why BRS continues to not be a first-rate system. And I don't say that because I love tournaments, because I freaking hate tournaments. But tournament scene drives participation. And until we get, and I jokingly in the show notes say a credible organization, implying that we're a bunch of ass clowns, but until we get multiple credible organizations doing tournaments, then I think it's gonna be a little bit of a hurdle, and that we're going to have people doing some cool narrative play, but people won't want to participate in a tournament circuit because the tournaments are all going to be a little different. I don't know how you solve that other than me drafting people and paying them a lot of money to run tournaments. That's not going to work because we don't have that money in the Lead Pursuit budget. Those stakes were expensive. So we got to figure that out in the community. I think Blood Red Skies has a lot of potential if people get behind a tournament scene and making a tournament scene across the U.S. And, oh, by the way, Warlord funding us to have a frickin' tournament tracking software like every other first-rate game has. Then, if they do that, then I think Blood Red Skies has the potential to keep growing in that area. Other than that, it's going to be a narrative game. It's going to be a game people play at their local club. Maybe they play it when they roll into a convention, but they're probably going to go play big competitive or event games and not play Blood Red Skies. It's a constraint. As much as I hate tournaments, they drive popularity. Any thoughts on my super negative Debbie Downer view of Blood Red Skies tonight?
Everybody's going to be playing campaign games in their garage with their bestie. What are you talking about? It's going to be the way. I'm
hoping. That's what I hope when the compendium comes out. Everybody is just chomping at the bit to play their campaign games, and they're like, "Tournament what? Never heard of those guys." So I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I would add that it's a shame because the game is lends itself so perfectly to tournaments because it plays quick. Right. Plays super fast, and it's fun to do the list building, right? Because you have a little bit of the list building, kind of like you have.
I hate fucking list building.
But it doesn't have it's not really the kind of game where you're going to find one meta and then just break the game and everybody's going to do the same thing, right? So it has the same list building of X-Wing, but it doesn't have the same fault as X-Wing where after 6 months, everybody's going to play the same 2 lists, right? So it lends itself perfect to tournaments. It just needs to, like you said, it just needs to be kind of organized and streamlined so more people can run the same tournaments.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, we don't have the final say on anything. We just kind of grabbed the flag and ran out in the middle of the field and said, okay, we'll say what the U.S. tournament scene is. But if other people in other organizations want input, that's great. Contact us. You know how to find us. We're on Facebook, Instagram. You can email us. You can go to the website and fill out a contact form. But the point is, other people, if other people would step up and do tournaments and to just kind of throw it out there and say, okay, we're going to do a tournament. We will either use our own packet or we'll use the Lead Pursuit GOE packet. That's fine. I don't care if you discount Heavy Fighters 25 points. Doesn't bother me. Do what you want to do and make the tournament fun. And I think if we have a lot of people running fun tournaments, it will take a little bit of the stress off Lead Pursuit to feel like they're the ones kind of running the high-end, high-tier, high expectations tournaments, which gets a little stressful. So any other thoughts on tournaments?
I'm building a BF 110 list.
You better do it. You're going to have to come to NashCon and play 110s or fly out to TLC. Don't you or are you taking some Boy Scouts on a adventure down the Yangtze River where they're going to eat snakes and, rebuild desecrated Chinese temples and make them safe for nice Buddhist people all over the world.
All while selling popcorn.
Oh, while selling popcorn. Exactly. And saving cats out of trees or whatever else scouts do. Telling the truth the whole time. All right. Any other comments, Adepticon wrap-up, final things anyone wants to say besides the next person that brings a single-engine fighter to a multi-engine tournament, I'm going to punch you in the face with a Blue Falcon.
What are the points for the Super B-17?
Oh, God, I don't know. I got to go calculate the points. I got to figure out what that is. And I think we need some nose art that says Pink Donkey on it for the B-17. So we'll put that on there and then play the B-17 out at the Furball for TLC. All right. Well, let me remind everyone, please leave us a review. Those help other people find the podcast when you say wonderful things about us or if you also say terrible things about us. Either one works. Tell the truth. Don't blow sunshine up our butts. Or you can drop us a line on Instagram, Facebook, out there, not on Twitter, definitely not on TikTok, certainly not politically active social medias out there, but drop us a line or go to the website. There's a contact form there. Plenty of people recently have used that to ask questions and to also tell us what a terrible job we're doing. So, hey, we'll take that as well. But please give us that feedback and keep climbing for advantage. Isn't that the worst ending ever? Steve, you love it, don't you? You're on mute, so you can say all you want. And I can say that's the worst ending ever. It sucks.
It's getting better every time.
It sucks donkey balls.
I can tell it's growing on you.
God, we need a new ending.